You have entered Akashic Intelligence. Prepare for upgrade into the ultimate AI in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Akashic Intelligence. Tap into the ultimate AI. I'm your host, Lisanne Valentine. Today we're going to talk about how we block the blessings we say we want. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one. You have entered Akashic Intelligence. Prepare for upgrade into the ultimate AI in 3, 2, 1. I'm so excited. I love my intro, though. I think it might evolve and change in the next season. We're down to the last 2 episodes of this season, and I put it to a vote on what people wanted to hear in the channeled guidance that would show up when it comes to essentially blocking your blessings. So it's interesting, early on in my journey, I think I used to believe that I was really open to receive, but at the same time, I borrowed this, unbeknownst to me, a mantra where I only needed this much. And I'm putting my hands about a foot apart. Like, I just need this much. I just need this much to pay my bills. I just need this much to survive this month. I just need this month. And I just want to delete all of that even as I say it, because I was restricting what was possible. So if I was repeating and I'm putting air quotes, active humility, that I only needed this much, then I was casting the spell that I was blocking anything that was more than that much from coming into my life. I didn't know it. I thought I was being humble and saying, oh, look, universe divine, I just need this much. I'm not asking for a lot. And that comes from lack. That comes from this idea that I am not deserving. It isn't my birthright. It isn't something that, it was rather something I would have had to earn. And so I remember when that was brought to my attention, I was working with a mentor, and we were in this group class, and she said, I see this woman, and she's just like putting her hands together saying, I just need this much. That's all I need. And that was limiting. It was limiting behavior. And so I may have said I wanted to, I wanted to earn a lot of money, but then at the same time, I was saying the opposite. My actions were dictating the opposite. And so oftentimes we say we want to have a certain lifestyle. We say we want to achieve certain things. And then if we have a fear of success or a fear of stepping into leadership because of old programs, old stories, things we borrowed, things we created, then we limit those opportunities and we're not aware of it. So the first step is to become aware of, where are you preventing yourself from the gifts? Where are you preventing yourself from receiving and being in the everflow, or in your overflow era? Where are you saying no to those things? It's funny, there's this woman I know that she was so good I was so proud of her. We were talking and she was like, I'm going to win the lotto, I'm going to play. And she was so excited. And she'd actually had a history of winning the lotto at different scales. And so we're playing around. She's like, I'm going to win the lotto. I go, well, what are you going to win? Are you going to win another ticket? Are you going to win $1? Like, what are you claiming? And then she said, like, I'm going to win $1 million. And she went, no, that's too much. I go, whoa, why is that too much? Why can't you just claim it? And she goes, oh no, because I don't deserve it. And I was like, what? So you're here saying on the one hand, I'm going to win the lotto. But then on the other hand, you're saying you don't deserve it. So it's canceling each other out. So you're just going to waste money playing lotto. And don't we do that all the time? We refuse to bet on ourselves. I'm only going to go this far because I don't deserve it. I can't take that trip, so I'm going to take another trip because that's more accessible to me. So I'm not going to go to Europe, but I'll just drive 3 hours. At the end of the day, spending probably just as much money, but like, you didn't deserve the European trip because that meant something. It meant something different. It's interesting how we play these word games with the divine. We say we want that, and then when God shows up giving it to us, we're like, oh no, I can't do that, And so when she was talking about the lotto thing, we talked about, why do you think you don't deserve it? Where can you claim it? And it was so brilliant of her to acknowledge that she believed she didn't deserve it. She just said it right immediately. She didn't block it. She didn't try to overthink it. She didn't deserve it. And so we did a little bit of work on what it meant to, one, receive so much money, and two, what did deserving it mean? How did she feel she needed to earn it? And so these might be some questions you might want to ask. If you think that you're not deserving, you might want to ask yourself, well, in what ways do you feel that you need to earn this thing? So let's say it's not the lotto. What if it's love? Do you feel like you need to earn love? Because what's the difference between the energy of one thing or another? If you're blocking it in one area, don't you think you're blocking it in another? If we're talking about receiving, either we're opening the gates or we're closing the gates. And it's funny, if you put it that way, you might want to rethink pretty much everything. If you're accepting crumbs in your love life, you might be accepting crumbs in multiple places, in your friendships, in your familiar relationships, at work. And at the end of the day, you're saying you want to have a loving relationship with a partner. You want to have a good relationship with your family. You want to get promoted at work. And yet You've closed the valve to receive love. And God, divine universe, wants to shower you with love and wants you to open that valve, but it's up to you because you have free will. But your words and your actions are saying other than what you think you want. You think you want the promotion, but you have this fear that if you earn more money, you'll have more responsibility and then you'll fail. Or if you earn more money and have more responsibility, you won't be able to spend more time with your family. You won't have a love life. You see how you're restricting it? I've made up all these stories around why my success will hurt me or damage me. Why does it have to be that way? Why do we limit the things that are possible? Why don't we decide we want something, this or something better, and ask the universe to orchestrate it for us in divine timing? Why do we limit it? Why does everything have to be now? Why does everything have to be now? Why do we have to call on things that we desire out of desperation and lack? Why can't we just, I'm seeing like a kid coming up to their parent who loves them saying, I would like this gift for my birthday. And they do it unabashedly. This is what I want for my birthday. This is the gift. Thank you. This is what I want. No questions asked, no worries about like if dad can afford it. Like, it's so funny. I'm saying dad because a lot of times when I have visions of the divine, has been a male figure, also female figure, like the avatars. It depends on what I need. But in this situation, it's coming up like a little girl and a dad, which I think is beautiful. It's beautiful for someone here who sees Papa as a provider. Ooh, Papa as a provider. That's interesting. That languaging was interesting. Whatever avatar feels supportive to you, a provider, let's say there's a provider across religions. There's an avatar that is a provider, an actual father, an uncle. I'm just using the male. This may rub the raw edges for someone. Lean into that. If provision is available and all you need to do is ask and surrender to how it shows up, just trusting and knowing that it will serve your highest good. How will you rephrase your desires? How will you open up to asking for and receiving more? How will you open the valve? These are good questions. In what ways can I? Rather, instead of how. In what ways can I, and surrender the how? In what ways can I open up more to receiving? In what ways can I surrender my ideas of how this should look? In what ways might I take the first step today into owning my birthright? Ooh, owning my birthright. Okay. It's funny, thinking back on that open the gates thing. I'm going to actually read it to you. It was one of the first thing I channeled. Like, the languaging was it sounded so much not like me that it was undeniable. And it was an interesting channel. So this is what came through when I was writing. This was 3 years ago, by the way, and it was about love. The flow of energy is cyclical, of equal measure. The output matches the input. When you halt it, one way or the other, you stop the flow. To best receive love, you must be willing to give it in equal measure to what you desire. Love with all your heart, and that will be mirrored back. Love with eyes of compassion, and that will be mirrored back. Open your arms wide to shower the world with the light of your love, and it will come barreling back, a prism of color, absorbing and reflecting through every facet of your being. Love is constant. You, the conduit, decide on the flow. Open the gates. I remember when that came through, I was like, wow, and even then it was limited in understanding what that meant. Everything is energy. And if you believe that, this is what I hold to be true. Everything, our purpose in all of this is to be love, to walk as love, to exemplify love, and to manifest, to be walking manifestations of love. And if we are love, are we restricting our ability to be? Are we restricting our ability to be love and to be loved? And all the ways that can manifest. Through fulfillment and nourishment in career, through fulfillment and nourishment in relationship, through fulfillment and nourishment in romance, passion, to fulfillment and nourishment just in your physical bodies, to fulfillment and nourishment in your, I'm hearing secular relationships, I guess non-work related, to fulfillment and nourishment in your joy, in your play, to fulfillment and nourishment in your spiritual life, to fulfillment and nourishment in even recreational activities, so fulfillment and nourishment in your investments, where you're investing your time, your energy, your thoughts. There's so many areas of life. If you even pull up a wheel of the wheel of life and see all the areas you can focus on, you can play with and ask questions. In what ways am I feeling fulfilled and nourished here? And what ways am I restricting the flow of fulfillment and nourishment in these areas? All these manifestations of me being love. Where is the gate open and where is it closed? Because again, one affects the other. You may be like, my gate's all the way open when it comes to how much I'm willing to receive love from a partner, but not from my mother. Then bro, you're restricting love, period. This period doesn't matter. And so then you get to work on and explore why you're restricting love when it comes to your mom. It's so interesting how this episode I'm focusing on restricting love from the mom and receiving from a dad provider.
this is interesting dynamics, especially if you know me. Like, this is so out there for me, but we're rolling with it because I invited the guidance and the support. And so here we are. And so this takes me to what happened just a couple of days ago. I facilitated my first live group breathwork experience in Brooklyn, New York. It was auspiciously orchestrated. So I have to tell you a story because it's so yummy. So I'd been looking for a place to facilitate, and I was of the mindset, like, just a small group of people, like it'll just be like 4 or 5 people, something like that. And I believe I was restricting my ability to facilitate on this idea that I could only serve a small group, that I didn't have the capacity to hold for bigger, that it would be too much for me because I'm so sensitive, and that, I couldn't hold that. I couldn't hold that container. I'm looking back and saying that that's what I was doing now, because at the time I didn't realize it. I was like, I just need a little group, a little room, a little group, doesn't need to be big. And so even at the retreats that I facilitated at, it's only been like 5 or 6 people, but I wasn't doing breath work there. I was just doing energy work and guidance. And so this time I was doing my own thing, my own event. I was a little nervous about it. And so I was restricting what I could do. So I would go to these places, and some of them, like, just check them out to see if they were aligned, and they were cool. The spaces look great. And they wouldn't get back to me, or it was a no. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Like, I'm going to stop trying, because I'd reached out to so many places. I gotten so many no's, and I was like, whatever, forget it. It's so much work. I love doing my breathwork on Zoom. People really have given me positive feedback. They have beautiful experiences. They feel safe in their homes. Why am I pushing this in-person thing? I don't need to do it. And so I think at the last group Zoom I did, I asked, if you know anyone where I could facilitate, just hit me up, let me know. And one of my soul sisters, who I adore, she's like, hey, listen, I have a friend who she used to live with her. We used to be roommates, and now she works at the studio in Brooklyn. You should check out the studio in Brooklyn. It's like a Pilates yoga studio. I was like, great, let me check it out. No expectations. I'm just going to I need a yoga studio. This is where I'm going to go. So I go to the yoga studio and I do yoga, and I freaking love it. I love this place. This place feels like home, and it's so yummy to be in there. Like, it's beautiful, and it feels so warm and inviting. And I do my package before I start traveling, and I just loved it. And I was like, oh, I think I found my place. This is great. And then I get the nudge to reach out and ask them if they'd be interested in renting the space to me or something, because I was like, oh, maybe I could try it. This looks like it could fit 5 people, pretty much what I was thinking. And so they get excited, and they're like, yeah, let's talk, and they're like, actually, it's more like 12 people. And I was like, oh, okay, 12 people, okay. And I was actually okay with that when I said okay. I wasn't restricting it. I was like, yeah, 12 people, all right, we'll do it. And so we did it. We sold out. And it was only afterward that I realized, I was like, this is bigger. This is like double. This is double the groups I do on Zoom. This is nearly triple what I've done in retreats. Like, wow, talk about expansion. Talk about being big. And I share that because at the retreat, one of the ladies was saying, Lisanne, I felt you getting bigger in the room. I felt like there was 15 of you in the room. You kept getting bigger and bigger with each song. And the intention I had set was to allow myself to be big, to expand beyond the room, to be able to hold what everyone was processing and carrying, to be able to be that anchor for them. Because I was showing up for them. I was showing up for love. I was showing up to facilitate as love. And there is no limit to the capacity that love can hold. Unconditional love. I'm not talking about what we hold as humans. There is no limit to the capacity that can be held by the highest forms of unconditional love. And therefore, you get to be the conduit and the vessel that anchors that love here, if you choose. And in that moment, I chose. I said yes. And I could feel that. I could feel it. And I was like, well, it's no wonder that the invitation came to expand my container. And then I got to show up in an expansive container to match it. And then people were able to feel supported and held in that experience. And it was magical. But had I still been talking in a limited mindset, thinking it could only be this small amount of people, I would have still been dancing with no's, because I hadn't said yes to myself first. I hadn't said yes. So you get to ask yourself, where am I saying no to my blessings? In what areas of my life am I saying no to what I desire? What actions can I take today to turn my no's into yeses? Show me one thing, tell me one thing, guide me into one thing. And then thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you that it's here. Thank you that my yes has arrived. Thank you that I'm being shown what more is possible. Thank you. Thank you that I'm open, available, and receptive to be showered with an overflow of blessings, to be in my overflow era. Because why is it an overflow moment, y'all? Pick the era. This entire era of living is your overflow era. No matter what is happening in the world, in the government, and the people around you, in your family life, this can be the breaker of chains. This can be the breaker of chains. This moment for you, where you choose to say yes to that which has been ordained and anointed for your highest and best, can be the breaker of chains to shift and change the reality that you are witnessing now. Beyond what your mind can conceive, beyond what your eyes can perceive. Allow yourself to be and bear witness and to be the example, to be the walking emanation of love that shows people what's possible. You get to be the walking miracle, but you get to ask the questions first to see where you're restricting, where you're holding back, and where you're saying no. I don't think I could have even shared what I'm sharing in this podcast had I not come on the other side of realizing where I've been restricting and constricting myself, not letting myself fully breathe. In breathwork, we talk about being expansive in the breath, deep, full breaths. What does it feel like to be fulfilled by that life force energy within you? To expand without compression or resistance. And I often go back to just like that life, that's you. What you're experiencing is you, completely alive and vibrating. And people have these experiences where like, I'm floating, I'm shaking, all these things are happening, magical things are having visions. I'm like, yeah, that's you. That's you. You're experiencing yourself in this way for the first time. Beautiful. Keep going. What more? What lessons are there for you? What lessons are there for you? Your body is teaching you something. These codes are awakening you for a reason. You're listening to this podcast right now for a reason, because perhaps there's something that you've wanted, that you've ached for. And now the reason why you wanted and ached for it, because it's already in a reality waiting for you. It's like there's this permeable membrane. I keep thinking like this clear translucent door that you just need to walk through it, break it, shatter it. And you're on the other side. And that thing that needs to be shattered is your resistance. The story that tells you you're not worthy of having it, that you need to earn it. You don't need to earn it. And I know that rubs up against raw edges too. If you're like, I work hard, therefore I deserve it. Who said, bro? Like, honestly, who said? If you work hard with resentment and rancor in your chest, then what are you calling in? If you work and you love it, and it feels yummy and juicy, what are you calling in? And does it even feel like work? The resistance can show up even in things you create, even in the things you think you enjoy doing. Oftentimes, like, especially me being neurodivergent, if I try something new and I'm not immediately great at it, I don't want to do it anymore. And that's because there's a story about like my output has to be excellent. I must excel. And so like, especially in art, watercolors drive me insane. Give me a watercolor and I will probably throw it across the room. Like I can do acrylics, I can do pastels, I can mess with charcoal because I know that there's a process, and whether it's beautiful or not doesn't matter. I know I'm doing it the quote unquote right way. Watercolors, it feels like so backwards, so reversed, and it stresses me out. Meanwhile, people love doing watercolors and it doesn't stress them out at all. It's so peaceful. But I know it's not for me. But I also know that's my resistance to not excelling at something, because that touches on worthiness, and that touches on, I didn't deserve to have a beautiful end result because I suck at this, right? So me being imperfect is the story. Do you see how you can tie these things to literally anything, to being imperfect, to being unlovable, to not having earned something? Like it could be any limiting belief. So now you get to flip it around. I am incredibly lovable. I am perfect as I am. I am more than enough as I am. I am worthy of receiving all that I desire and more. I have the wisdom and discernment to multiply that which is given unto me, right? Because you can get what you want and then you can drop it. So now you ask for the wisdom and the discernment to hold it and to multiply it and to create a legacy out of it. Doesn't that feel better than just winning the lotto? Say, I want to win the lotto. I know that I have the capacity and the support to invest this and to multiply it for generations. How does that feel? Does that feel like it's in service? Does that feel like something you could reach for? Why not apply it to everything else? I know I have the capacity for that promotion, and to not only exceed expectations in this role, but to allow myself to continue to move consistently up so that I create long-lasting wealth and support for me and my family and those to come, opening doors for all those that will come after me. Now it's not just your family, that's all those people who come after you in that role. Isn't that a shift that you can lean into? I am entitled to divine union with the love that is my match, exceeding my expectations. I surrender it unto you, divine source. You know what my heart's desires are. You know my divine match. I open my arms and I'm available to receive this type of love beyond my expectations and limitations and perceived ideas of what that should look like. I'm open and available, and see what shows up. I did that. And as of today, I'm happy to report that it is beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. I remember when I was trying to craft who this divine counterpart might be, and they say write exactly what you want, but also like be careful, like don't be so specific that you limit what's possible. I know Colette Baron Reid would talk about before she met her husband how she would write the physical description of who she thought the perfect guy was, and then like she manifested that physical description, but that guy was not perfect for her at all. It was a repeated pattern of her past. And when she surrendered the idea of what that person looked like, someone did show up and is the love of her life. And it's challenging for me to use, an example of someone who is a public figure and I don't know their personal circumstances, but it's an invitation, right? I hope that this sparks life in you, that it shifts the way that you believe the things that you believe are possible for you. I hope it helps you magnetize and magnify possibilities and double down, bet on yourself. Let yourself win the lotto again and again and again in the way you show up in the world, in what you're asking for in terms of the lifestyle that you want to live and how you want to serve in whatever capacity, as a parent, in leadership, whatever that looks like for you. Open the gates. Open the gates. Open the gates. You might allow yourself to witness you defying what others deem as possible. When you defy limits, you open up the capacity for others to receive more. And that in and of itself is a miracle, is the blessing. Will you let yourself step into that? That's the question that I leave you with. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Akashic Intelligence, and I will see you next time.
Complete.